People who knew Tom before he was fully brainwashed say that he was a sweet and loving person, and he's turned into something else, something unrecognizable to people who have known him.
Tom Cruise. The name alone is practically a synonym for superstardom. For more than 4 decades, he's been a titan of the silver screen, a guy who hangs off planes, scales the world's tallest buildings, and pilots fighter jets, all for our entertainment. His smile is legendary, his intensity is undeniable, and his status as one of the last true movie stars is pretty much undisputed. By any metric, he's a Hollywood legend, but behind that A-list smile, a totally different story has been playing out. Not everyone in Tinseltown is a fan. In fact, some of the biggest names in the business, from co-stars to famous actors and TV hosts, have publicly and passionately shared their intense dislike for the superstar. And these aren't just quiet disagreements or behind-the-scenes whispers. We're talking about public, well-documented feuds and brutal takedowns that show a side of Tom Cruise the public rarely sees. So, what could cause such bitter rivalries with one of the most powerful men in Hollywood? Today, we're digging into the most heated and public conflicts Tom Cruise has ever had. From explosive TV debates that went viral to professional critiques that cut deep, we're exposing the celebrities who weren't afraid to go head-to-head with Tom Cruise. Our first story is a conflict so public and so personal that it completely dominated headlines and played a huge role in shaping the public's perception of Tom Cruise. It's the infamous feud with actress and model Brooke Shields. To get this, we have to go back to 2005. Brooke Shields, an icon herself, had just given birth to her first daughter. It should have been a happy time, but Shields found herself battling severe postpartum depression. It was so bad that, at her lowest, she didn't want to live. In a move that was brave and groundbreaking for the time, she spoke out, writing a deeply personal book about her experience. In it, she revealed that she found recovery through therapy and prescribed antidepressants. Her goal was to de-stigmatize a condition that affects millions of new mothers and show them that seeking medical help was a sign of strength, not weakness. She was praised for her honesty, but one person wasn't impressed. In fact, he was appalled. That person was Tom Cruise. While promoting his blockbuster War of the Worlds, Cruise used his massive platform not to talk about the movie, but to launch an unprompted attack on Brooke Shields. As a devout Scientologist, Cruise follows the teachings of L. Ron Hubbard, which strongly rejects psychiatry and psychiatric drugs. Scientology considers psychiatry a pseudoscience and its treatments harmful. Armed with those beliefs, Cruise went on the offensive. In an interview, he called Shields' choice to use antidepressants irresponsible. He argued that medication just masks the problem, and that the real solution was vitamins and exercise. He even took a stunningly personal shot at her career, questioning where it had gone. The comments were shocking, but his next appearance on the Today Show would become legendary for all the wrong reasons. During what should have been a normal promo interview, host Matt Lauer pressed Cruise on his criticism of Shields. What happened next was one of the most tense and uncomfortable TV moments in recent memory. Cruise got defensive, his famous smile gone, replaced by an unnerving intensity. He claimed Shields didn't understand the history of psychiatry and was spreading bad information. He declared there was no such thing as a chemical imbalance and that psychiatry was a scam. Brooke Shields was, as she put it, gobsmacked. But she was also a new mom, and she felt a fierce need to defend not just herself, but all women who had suffered. She didn't just release a statement. She wrote a powerful op-ed for the New York Times. In it, she took apart Cruise's arguments, one by one. She wrote, "To suggest that I was wrong to take drugs, and that instead, I should have taken vitamins and exercised, shows an utter lack of understanding about postpartum depression." She famously added that Tom should stick to saving the world from aliens and let women who are experiencing postpartum depression decide what treatment options are best for them. She accused him of doing a disservice to mothers everywhere and called his rant dangerous. The public backlash against Cruise was immediate and huge. He came off as arrogant, uninformed, and cruel. Eventually, Cruise did apologize. He reportedly went to Shields' home to say sorry in person, and Shields even attended his wedding to Katie Holmes a year later. But as she later described it, it wasn't the world's best apology. While they may have buried the hatchet publicly, the friendship seemed to have cooled considerably. This wasn't just a simple disagreement. It was a fundamental clash of beliefs that left a lasting mark on both of their public images. The fallout from Tom Cruise's comments about Brooke Shields led directly to our next major clash and on-air showdown that has since become internet legend. This wasn't a long-running feud, but a live TV interview that went completely off the rails. The man who found himself in the hot seat was veteran Today's Show host Matt Lauer. The date was June 24, 2005. Tom Cruise sat down with Matt Lauer, supposedly to promote War of the Worlds. The interview started off friendly enough, but Lauer, being a real journalist, couldn't ignore Cruise's controversial statements about Brooke Shields. The second he brought it up, the mood on set completely shifted. The friendly movie star disappeared, and a different Tom Cruise took over, condescending and refusing to back down. Lauer started by gently questioning Cruise's stance. He asked a simple, fair question. If antidepressants worked for Brooke Shields, why was that a problem? That question lit a fuse. Cruise leaned forward and started lecturing Lauer, saying, "Here's the problem. You don't know the history of psychiatry. I do." The exchange escalated quickly. Lauer tried to be reasonable, but Cruise wasn't interested in nuance. He was there to preach. The tipping point, the moment that would be replayed and parodied for years, came when Cruise looked at Lauer with total disdain and said, "You're glib." He even repeated it for effect. "You're glib." He accused Lauer of not taking the issue seriously. A guest on a morning show was attacking the host's intelligence on his own program. Lauer, to his credit, stayed composed but firm. He pushed back, pointing out that his personal experience with people helped by medication was also valid. Cruise just shot back that Lauer was advocating for these drugs. You could see Lauer getting visibly frustrated as Cruise steamrolled his questions with an almost robotic certainty. He told Lauer that he was being irresponsible with his platform. The irony seemed completely lost on him. According to behind-the-scenes reports, the vibe after the segment was ice cold. The two men didn't speak off camera, and the interview ended abruptly. It immediately became one of the most talked about moments in TV history. It was a raw, unfiltered look at the power of Cruise's convictions and his absolute refusal to be challenged. His behavior was seen as arrogant and bullying, and the glib comment became a meme before memes were really a thing. This interview did more to solidify his image as a controversial figure than almost any other event. If the feuds with Brooke Shields and Matt Lauer were explosive but short-lived, the conflict with actress Leah Remini is a long, grinding war. This isn't about one interview. This is a deeply personal crusade, led by a former insider who has made it her life's mission to expose what she calls the truth about Tom Cruise and his role in the Church of Scientology. Leah Remini, best known from The King of Queens, was a dedicated Scientologist for over 30 years. For decades, she was a loyal member, defending the church and its most famous advocate, Tom Cruise. But her faith started to crumble, and in 2013, she made the huge decision to leave, knowing it would cut her off from her entire community. Since then, Remini has become Scientology's most high-profile and relentless critic. Through her best-selling book and her Emmy-winning TV series, she has made devastating allegations against the church and, specifically, against Tom Cruise. According to Remini, Cruise isn't just a follower of Scientology. He's practically second in command to the church's leader, David Mis. She claims that inside the church, criticizing Tom Cruise is a high crime, basically the same as attacking the religion itself. She has repeatedly rejected the idea that Cruise is some innocent pawn, arguing that he's fully aware of the church's alleged abuses, like its controversial disconnection practice, where members are forced to cut off all contact with friends and family, who leave Remini's criticism of Cruise is personal and brutal. In a Reddit Ask Me Anything, when a fan asked if Tom Cruise was a good person, her answer was blunt, "No. Just going to get straight to it, no," she explained. There is a public persona, and there's the person behind the mask who is a completely different person. She's even called him diabolical, and claims other people who have worked with him say the same thing. She tells a famous story about being at Cruise's home before his wedding to Katie Holmes. Remini says she saw a package of pre-made cookie dough and casually mentioned it. That tiny comment, she alleges, got her written up in a formal disciplinary report within Scientology for questioning Cruise. For Remini, Cruise's wedding was another key event. She described it as a tightly controlled affair run by the church, and it was there that her serious questions about the church's leadership began, which put her on the path to leaving. Remini argues that Cruise gets special treatment and power from the church that are hard to imagine. She claims he has a staff of fellow Scientologists who cater to his every need, not as employees, but as followers, serving a man they believe is single-handedly saving the planet. The Church of Scientology, of course, has aggressively denied all of Remini's claims, calling her a bitter ex-Scientologist, but Remini hasn't backed down. For her, this isn't just a celebrity spat. It's a fight for justice, for alleged victims of the church. Her issue isn't with Tom Cruise the actor, but with Tom Cruise the symbol, the smiling face of what she sees as a dangerous organization. This makes her his most persistent and formidable enemy. We're digging into some of Hollywood's most intense rivalries, and we're not done yet. If you're finding these stories as fascinating as we are, and you want more content that peeks behind the celebrity curtain, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Now we have to ask, which of these feuds has shocked you the most so far? The public takedown, the on-air meltdown, or the insider crusade? Let us know in the comments, and let's get back to it. While some feuds play out in the media, others start on the high-pressure set of a Hollywood movie. Our next story comes from a celebrated actress who worked with Tom Cruise on one of his biggest franchises and called the experience a nightmare. That actress is Thandie Newton. Back in 2000, Newton was cast as the female lead in Mission Impossible 2. Landing a role in a huge blockbuster like that should be a dream come true. But for Newton, the experience was filled with stress and fear, which she says was largely because of Cruise's behavior on set. Years later, in a very honest interview with Vulture, Newton didn't hold back. When asked why she never came back to the franchise, her answer was blunt. "Oh, I was never asked." She then explained why, saying, "I was so scared of Tom. He was a very dominant individual." Newton described Cruise as a man under so much pressure, who feels that only he can do everything as best as it can be done. This intense perfectionism, she explained, made for a really difficult working environment. She described him as someone who tries super hard to be a nice person, but whose stress and dominance were just overwhelming. She shared one particularly awful story. They were filming a tough night scene on a balcony. The scene was emotional, but it just wasn't working. Newton remembered the script being weak, and she was having trouble with her lines. Cruise, she said, got more and more frustrated with her. Solution was ... creative, to say the least. He suggested they physically switch roles on camera. He would play her character Naya, and she would play Ethan Hunt, so he could show her exactly how he wanted the scene done. But the plan backfired, big time. Newton called the experience the most unhelpful thing imaginable. Instead of helping, it just pushed me further into a place of terror and insecurity. She felt humiliated and scared, calling the memory a nightmare. To make matters worse, she said Cruise called her later, but not to apologize. He just announced, "We're going to reshoot this next week." When they did, Newton said she finally got what he wanted. "He just wanted this alpha bitch, and I did as best as I could." But she was clear that it was not a healthy way to get a good performance out of an actor. Now, Newton did add that Cruise wasn't horrible, just really stressed. But her story gives a rare look into the kind of intensity Tom Cruise brings to his work. What he sees as passionate commitment, a co-star experienced as terrifying. Her story suggests he can be so focused on his own vision that he doesn't see the emotional damage his methods cause. Not all the hate for Tom Cruise comes from his religion or his on-set behavior. For some, the dislike is purely professional, a critique of his work as an artist. And nobody has been more blunt or more publicly dismissive of Tom Cruise's acting than the legendary bad boy himself, Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke is a true Hollywood original. He's an actor who values raw, transformative performances above everything else. He loves guys like Al Pacino, Christopher Walken, and early Robert De Niro actors who tried to stretch. And that's the lens through which he sees Tom Cruise. And he is not a fan. In July 2022, on the show Piers Morgan Uncensored, Rourke was asked what he thought about the huge success of Top Gun: Maverick. Morgan asked for his take on Cruise's success. Rourke's response was instant and brutal. "That doesn't mean S to me," he growled. Then he dropped the line that went viral. "The guy's been doing the same effing part for 35 years. You know, I've got no respect for that." It was a direct hit on Cruise's entire career. Rourke was calling his 4 decades of work artistically empty and repetitive. He made it clear that box office numbers meant nothing to him. "I don't care about money and power," he said. "I care about when I watch Al Pacino working. That's the kind of actor I want to be." When Piers Morgan pushed him, asking flatly if he thought Tom Cruise was a good actor, Rourke didn't miss a beat. He leaned in and delivered his final judgment. "I think he's irrelevant in my world." The comments were pure. Mickey Rourke, defiant, passionate, and completely disdainful of the Hollywood machine. He was basically saying that while Tom Cruise may be a movie star, he's not a real actor in Rourke's eyes. He sees Cruise's career as a series of safe, commercial choices, playing the same hero over and over, instead of taking real creative risks. This wasn't a personal feud, it was a clash of artistic philosophies. Rourke, the grizzled character actor, who channels his hard life into his work, versus Cruise, the pristine, global action hero. To Rourke, Cruise represents formulaic filmmaking and commercialism over art. It's the ultimate professional insult, to be called not just bad, but irrelevant. From the ideological war waged by Leah Remini to the professional contempt of Mickey Rourke. From the on-set nightmare Thandie Newton described to the public fights with Brooke Shields and Matt Lauer, the story of Tom Cruise's celebrity. Feuds is as intense as any of his movies. What we see is a picture of a man whose defining traits, unshakable self-belief, his intense perfectionism, and his deep devotion to Scientology are the very things that shot him to the top of Hollywood, and also the very things that have sparked his ugliest public conflicts. His career is a total paradox. He's one of the most beloved movie stars on earth, able to bring global audiences together, and yet, he's also a deeply polarizing figure. A man who inspires not just admiration, but also fear, resentment, and even hatred from his peers. These stories show the messy reality behind the carefully managed image of a superstar, and they leave us with a few big questions. Is Tom Cruise a misunderstood genius whose standards are just too high for some? Or is there a darker, more controlling side to the Hollywood icon that we rarely get to see? The answer, it seems, really depends on who you ask.